Your Town Matters is funded by the Government of Canada through the Local Journalism Initiative and supported by Cactus Media, Canada's independent community television association.
I'm Vicki Hogarth, and welcome to Your Town Matters. My guest today is the mayor of the town of St. Andrews, Brad Henderson. Thanks for being here again today, Brad.
Always love it.
This is our second winter check-in. Next time you'll sit down here, it'll fortunately be spring. But something has come to light that you drew attention to before amalgamation even happened, which is taxes will be going up in former LSDs as they navigate amalgamation. I know that the former Minister of Local Government, Daniel Len, I think in an interview I did, said that you were fear-mongering over a year ago, but it turns out that this is the reality of what we're looking at in the Chamcook and Bayside. I'd love you to just elaborate on what's transpired.
And I guess thank you for setting that up. The truth is, I guess when municipal reform was happening, there was a lot of unknowns, but the moment that I actually saw how taxes were going to be formulated, what services our LSDs now had to pay for that they didn't pay for before. Once I got a little bit of visibility into their financials, it became abundantly clear, even in preliminary conversations, that the residents of Chamcook and Bayside would have impacts from municipal reform, and that would be tax increases. I look at it a couple ways. The reality is if you're paying for services that you never paid for before, there's a good chance that your taxes are going to go up. But maybe there's some cost saving opportunity. But when you dive into the numbers, there's three primary services that Chamcook and Bayside, Beauquebec for that matter, but Chamcook Bayside were paying before. And one would have been kind of your garbage removal. And what was abundantly clear is the average resident in Chamcook out of their tax rate was paying double of what the old residents of St. Andrews were paying. When it came to policing, the average out of their tax rate was paying double of what the municipality of St. Andrews was. And although the municipality has no say in the roads, it was again double per household what Chamcook Bayside was paying for St. Andrews. So all those factors combined, when you're paying kind of out of your tax rate double than what St. Andrews is, and then you add actually extra services in that they now have to pay for that they didn't pay for before, it's pretty obvious to say that the impacts were going to go up. I never could anticipate that residents in Chamcook Bayside would have to pay a higher tax rate than the residents of St. Andrews. St. Andrews has more services, and some of those services residents of Chamcook Bayside still aren't paying. But when you pay double for those three primary services out of your tax rate, and then you add more in, the projections, every projection I got is that the tax rate in Chamcook Bayside was going to be higher than what the tax rate was going to be of St. Andrews. So I felt like if I was going to be the mayor of Chamcook Bayside, I needed to draw some awareness to it, and that's where that video that I made came from. It wasn't the most professionally done video. It was on my iPhone, and I was at the Dome, tied in timber in Bayside, and even my son Tristan entered into the video at the end. But I wanted to get the information out there. I didn't expect to be called maybe fear-mongering, but the truth is now we're seeing it. What I said was true. I had no reason to do anything other than that. And at the time, some residents were engaged, and it definitely drew some attention. But some residents really weren't engaged. And now that they're starting to get their tax bills and realizing not only is my assessment going up, but my tax rate is going up, this is a significant increase when the cost of everything is going up. This is all stuff that was very visible that was going to happen. It didn't surprise me at all. I will say that the good news is municipalities now can work together and alter the formulas made by the province of New Brunswick. And although it will be council of the day or year to year, it seems like this municipality, the new community of St. Andrews, all the councillors together, realize that although the model is saying that Chamcook Bayside should be paying a higher tax rate, I think where we're going to end up settling on this is that the tax rate is the same for the residents of Chamcook and Bayside as it is in St. Andrews. And the benefits of doing that is they are paying something for the services that are in town that some of them did in fact use. The arena is a prime example. But I think the constant thing is in the future councils, it won't be neighbor versus neighbor saying you pay this, you pay that. If something in the community costs less, everybody saves on that. If something costs more, everybody pays for it. So hopefully that'll stop neighbor versus neighbor in the future, but it's going to take a number of years, just like the video I made, to get to that level. Based on projections I have, residents of Chamcook Bayside will probably see their tax rate go up, and the St. Andrews will continue to see it go down. Now, it's important to note, in St. Andrews, the assessments are significantly higher. The average household pays significantly more tax than what the average household in Chamcook Bayside is. So even if all things are together the same, the average assessment rate is so much higher in St. Andrews, residents that live in this community do in fact pay more money.
Wow.
The old community.
Okay, well, definitely, we knew there would be a lot of growing pains with amalgamation, but this is clearly quite a big one to confront for this year, especially for Chamcook Bayside. It
is. Like the thing that really, if I could hit it home the most is we all have to make this work. We had no choice in it. It came. But being open and transparent about it is the only way that we can go about it. And I just hate the neighbor versus neighbor, and I can't say enough about how well our new councillors, the 3 new councillors from the ward, have joined town council. They have obviously pushed back as much as they possibly can, but in the same sense, the 9 councillors are working together and trying to find common ground. So although it hasn't been a perfect process, it's gone a lot easier as far as being a cohesive unit than I thought it would be. But with that being said, this is just the first budget year that we've had to do together. More and more people are becoming aware. These councillors are getting more and more feedback. The process is far from over.
Well, no matter what part of St. Andrews you live in, though, we've all been affected by the housing crisis. This is obviously even beyond a national story. You and the town have taken some steps to ensure that we are proactive about it. We know about the affordable housing unit, the sort of near-term importance, but we also have something in development potentially near NBCC. I'd love for you to give people a little bit of background if they haven't been following on what's happening there.
Yeah, so I think it was 3 or 4 years ago I first met actually with the New Brunswick Community College just to explore the opportunity as deputy mayor at the time of some of this land in behind the community college, could it be used for housing? And in the community we kept hearing about how students would come here and not be able to find accommodation, either transfer campuses or drop out. And it was something I'm passionate about. The NBCC it does a lot of things. Obviously, the people that work there, it's an economic driver. The students come here, they buy things. But also it's a talent pipeline for our workers in our community. We're a tourism-driven economy. A lot of the people that you see on culinary teams, servers, even tour guides, a lot of them come from the New Brunswick Community College. Trades, which we need to build housing, carpentry is something that they teach there. So it's such a vital pipeline. And to consistently see year-over-year decline, something has to change. We can talk about our problems all we want, but unless we do specific actions, we're just going to continue to see them. That meeting at first probably didn't give me much hope. I kind of felt like there was no mandate by the New Brunswick Community College to develop housing. But as you kind of went through the process, you realize that no one's going to stop you. You might not at first get the help you're looking for, but no one's going to stop you. So we're able to track down who owned the land. Turns out it was actually DTI. We worked with the province to deem it a surplus property. We had it assessed. The assessed value was $50,000. The municipality would have an option of buying it. And before we purchased it, we said, let's just do our environmental test and look at the soil composition to make sure that it is ideal for development. And I'm glad we did, because when we did those tests, we actually found out that it wasn't suitable. And that the mitigation to basically remove soil and bring new soil in, it would have had almost an upfront cost of almost $500,000. So, but if you're trying to do affordable housing development, and that is before you even get the shovels in ground, the cost, I kind of gave up on that project, and so did council. Because of the Housing Accelerator Fund and the need for housing, we now realize that other levels of government actually want to have conversations. There is examples all across Canada. I think of, Sydney, Cape Breton, where the tar ponds used to be. That's actually development now. So you do mitigation all the time. There seems to be a little bit of an appetite for other levels of government to help pay for that. So it brought it back on the table where they actually looked at that as a favorable project. I know if you look at Nova Scotia, at their community colleges, they made an announcement that they're building apartments or dormitories at a number of their different campuses. I think it makes sense for the New Brunswick Community College. Their team is doing a fabulous job of getting engaged in the community, opening up for new program. They've even hired a community coordinator in St. Andrews to interact with the community to make the college closer. They're doing all the right stuff. I think as a municipality, we need to take a leadership position to help them grow. So where that is right now, and that was a long background, I apologize, is we've actually partnered with the Housing Hub, which is a not-for-profit. They are experts when it comes to getting a project off the ground, whether it be the first thing that we did was a visioning exercise to determine what the community wants and what they feel is a must-have versus a nice-to-have. And we've kind of got a little bit of a report that's before us that says this is what the community thinks we need there. So now we're going through, a process with an architect to do up a sketch of what it would. They'll be doing feasibility, they'll be doing financial. So it's going to be a long process. The zoning right now, I believe, would be institutional. That would have to be rezoned in order to do a development like this, I believe. So there's a process ahead of us, but to have a company like the Housing Hub, a not-for-profit, really stay with us the entire process. They're in for the long haul with us. If there was ever a time where we actually made that project a reality, I do think it's today's climate, and it would be such a huge win. I can already say that we've got an affordable project that is literally being built as we speak. When they announced it on social media, I looked at the comments, and there was already enough people inquiring that that's going to fill up quick. We do need more options. And it is important for the community to note that there is a difference between low income and affordable. Both are warranted projects for different reasons, but this is affordable. You would need some type of income to live there, and what those rates are will be all part of the feasibility study.
Another big project that could potentially be underway has to do with the Passamaquoddy Lodge, which would also include a daycare center. The plans for it are quite extensive and could be very impactful to the community. Can you tell us a little bit about what stakeholders are involved in that project and where we're at with potentially building a new lodge and what we could use the old lodge for in that case?
Yeah, so the Passamaquoddy Lodge, the new lodge, we'll call it, the project design and the people that are pushing behind it is the Passamaquoddy Lodge board themselves. Those are some of the best volunteers. A lot of their members actually volunteer at multiple organizations. They are a really dynamic and dedicated group that need to be celebrated because we're so fortunate to have people like that are invested not just in a lodge, but again, multiple organizations in our community. They've done a phenomenal job. Caroline Davies, if you know Caroline, I can honestly tell you I've probably sat in 30 presentations that she's made. She's that passionate, that dedicated to the process. It is at no fault of their own. They've continued to raise their hand. They've raised money to do some of the studies that have got us to this point. They've got private donors and contributions. They've met with the municipality to get land for $1. They've been doing a lot of incredible work, but what they need is the support of the provincial government. This is a provincial government. They pay essentially per diem. So when you have someone that stays in a senior care facility, there's an amount the province allocates per night for those residents. They need that number and they need that documentation to say this is what the guarantee is to take to the bank. From my understanding right now, they still do not have that. Although the Premier was in town, we did meet. I sat in those meetings. They made the presentation. The Premier said that, we can write a letter to the bank, but right now there's still no promise of what that per diem is. And that is what ultimately on the outside that I'm seeing that's holding this project up. I have got no indication today versus last year that we're any closer to reality of this project going ahead. It needs a commitment from the province, and there has not been a commitment to date. I know that our local MLA supports the project, but again, there's been no commitment to date that has gave any financial model for this to go ahead. I really hope it happens. The municipality has got no plans for that land. We'll hold on to it as long as we can, unless there's some other pressing community need. As much as the senior care facility is needed, the daycare is equally, if not just as much, needed. There's a lot of people that are struggling. In particular, there's if you've got a kid before they're in the school system, say a 3 or 4 year old, the wait list is like 20 something kids in this town. Our classroom sizes were never 20 something kids, and this is a wait list. This is a great challenge. But if we don't meet this challenge, how many of these people are getting discouraged moving back to maybe where they've got more support from parents, and we're losing them? So as much as you want to be patient, something like childcare, you can only be patient so long. We need to figure this out. And I know you could say, well, that's not a municipal service. I'm of the mindset we can point fingers of every level of government, but we got to take ownership for it. So I'm really pleased with the work they've done. But I've got to put a speed bump on it to say that we need the provincial government to support this project with dollars in order for it to go ahead. Otherwise, we'll continue just to be spinning our wheels.
Wow. And yeah, it opens up possibilities to use the old lodge, if it does become the old lodge, as another affordable housing.
Yeah, so affordable housing, that's where my head is at and still is. But the Premier, when he was here, one of the things that he did say is that there is other communities that are looking to get additional beds, and you know, on the high level, he just questions if, although the new facility needs updated, it still is clean, it's working. Is an investment more warranted in another community that's adding additional beds versus replacing beds? Okay. But what that makes me think is if we've got such a I'll call it a crisis, or at least a shortage of beds for people that need senior care facilities. I know that with the aging demographic we have in rural New Brunswick, that's probably going to get even higher. Then maybe the short-term solution is you operate both, and then maybe when the business case is there, you transition to housing. So housing is a suggestion. It's been the one I've been kind of pushing for. But if I'm hearing the greater need is senior care facilities, why not increase the bed? So instead of having 60, and that the Passamaquoddy Lodge isn't just a St. Andrews facility; it's a regional facility. There's people all across Charlotte County and the region there, even as far as some of the cities they travel down. If we need 120, then we could operate those 60 as kind of a preliminary, and then the newer one be for more long term. But all options are on the table. Other than that, building can serve a real need in the community, whether it be housing or more beds for senior care.
Another location where there could be new housing, apartments or condos, is the old HMS building, which I know that was something, I want to say last year or the year before on the agenda a lot at council, was a proposed building with storefronts downstairs. They've come back with potentially a new plan that might not need variance.
Yeah, so it was before council. It would have been over a year ago. Time flies. And council had to look at it. It was going to require several, I guess you call it variances, or at least things that were different from our zoning bylaw. And someone that I have a lot of respect for. I've referenced him a lot in the past. Chris Fleming, a former mayor of St. Andrews, always used to tell me that if something needs 3 or 4 variances or more, it's probably not a fit from what your community plan is, so you should look at it that way. In this particular case, it was several variances that were required. So council was back and forth and ultimately decided that isn't something that they wanted to pursue. The developers themselves have basically, they took a cooling off period, and it looks like they've gone back and they've actually come up with a development that falls within the zoning regulations of the town of St. Andrews within our municipal plan. And from my understanding, I haven't been engaged in the process at all, but it falls within all of our bylaws and doesn't require any variances. So it can be issued a building permit by our planner. So it meets the requirement of the land use. So there will actually be no decision before council. It's no different than if you bought a residential lot and decided to build a house. If you're building within the terms, you don't have to come before council and get that approved, right? That's why you have zoning bylaws and municipal plans to make a plan for your community so it can operate. So I don't have a lot of detail on what it looks like and any dates or if it's in fact 100% going ahead. From my understanding is I believe a building permit has been issued. So I'll be finding out with everybody else, because typically as a mayor, you don't mingle into the planning office on something unless you're required to, because it's contrary to your own plan. So I'll be anxiously awaiting, just like probably all of you, of what it looks like.
It'll be exciting to see as Water Street changes. And also, speaking of Water Street, we haven't talked about the wharf yet, which I know finally has an option. The option that council liked is the same one the public liked, and I'll let you go into detail about when we can see this get underway and how it will affect the town, especially in the busier months.
Yeah, so we're really hoping that the actual, when you actually see the activity at the end of the wharf, will be in the fall, kind of looking at an October 1st date in mind. But there's a lot of things that still need to happen. Right now, what's happening is town staff is working with basically our engineers to basically put this out for a call for proposals. So there's a month or two of work that needs to be done to put together a package to say this is specifically what we need you to do. So companies can come in and say, hey, I'll do that scope of work, this is the cost. So really they're getting into the nitty gritty details of the project, of the hybrid option that council chose. So from there, what happens is you go to a call for proposals, multiple, I guess you could call them construction companies, or developers would actually put in proposals on this is what we would do and this is the cost. And then what would happen is you'd have a scoring matrix by the town, keeping in mind costs, and you would award that. So the hope is that that process comes in within the budget, within the scope of the budget, and then we could award it and then begin that construction in the fall. So there is that process that has to happen. As far as the timeline on that one, if it's 100% accurate, it makes me think that kind of summer next year it should be ready at some point, hopefully prior to the whale watching, I guess you could say peak season. But let's go through the process. Let's hear from the companies. They may even push back to say that time frame doesn't work. And then the other thing that you've got to be aware of is that a lot of major projects like this is the biggest that in my time being on town council that we've ever done. Big projects like this can go over timelines. So I don't know what that looks like if you put penalties in there or what the red tape is, but we just can't assume that this is necessarily going to be exactly on time. So I think we need to have discussions on contingency plans, plan Bs, but yeah, we're well into it now. The good news is since council made that decision, at least what I've heard has been positive in the community, where the community thinks that was the right decision. I know not everybody would say that, but it's been very, very positive. And that's a good indication that council will listen to the community and follow the option that the community best supported.
I know council, and in collaboration with the Civic Trust, now are looking to the community for some guidance on potential new uses for the Charlotte County Courthouse. This is not a new topic for you and me, but it has a new direction right now in terms of going through the Civic Trust.
Yeah, I guess I've said it before. An asset like the courthouse deserves due diligence. When you look at something like that, you don't want it just to sit and have no community use, and the taxpayer continues to put money into something that is not very well utilized in the community. It's an asset. It's a cultural and heritage asset of our community. It needs to have a plan that is sustainable, but also is enjoyed and used by the community in some capacity. So I'm really happy to see Civic Trust take the lead. They have a track record, if you look at some of the projects they've done in the past of figuring stuff like this out. Not to keep going back to the consultant that we hired and we got a report, but when I got that report, I was really underwhelmed by what it said. There wasn't that aha moment that I didn't even really think that the model was sustainable. They know that, and there is some very intelligent people that are involved with Civic Trust that have been involved in the community for a number of years, but there's also some new residents that have been to other areas and seen other buildings be repurposed. So I don't want to put too much pressure on them, and I'm sure they feel it. But the reality is I'm really excited that they're working on it, and I'm looking forward to them getting back to council. They wanted a year. We kind of lean more towards 8 months. We give them a year, but we needed that update for 8 months. And the reason being is the budget process. If we needed to make any investment for 2025, we need to know. Otherwise, we're talking now at 2026 and it's election year. And how many years is this going to get caught up? So that's why it's a time frame. But I can't thank, again, those are volunteers. A lot of the stuff we do in our community is on the back of volunteers. I know they're meeting regularly about that. There's other projects in the community that they're engaged in. Greenwich Church is another great example that they're meeting with them and providing expertise and their stakeholder in the process. But the work that they do, we're very lucky to have them. And I'd rather consult too much and slow it down than make a wrong decision on one of the oldest, I think it's the second oldest courthouse in Canada.
Could be.
Was
it once the oldest running?
Yeah, running. I think it's the second. Anyway, let's just say it's got a significant amount of heritage that I, as a member of council, and I know my other councillors, want to make sure that we make the best decision out of respect for that building and for respect that community members that are very passionate about it.
And St. Andrews civictrust.ca, I believe, is the website where if you want to submit ideas, the public, of what it could be, and they have to be financially feasible, but that's where to go. I can't believe I'm leaving 1 minute for my final question because it's a big question, and we might have to save most of it for next time you're here, which fortunately I know will be in less than 2 months because you are our most regular guest, and I appreciate that. But I wanted an update from you on the PAC meeting about the Chamcook, the proposed lobster facility. I know you were at the meeting and saw that there were a lot of concerned residents in the Chamcook area who feel this could have an effect on their quality of life. But I guess we're waiting on PAC for a decision on whether this can go ahead.
It's true. So the PAC had the meeting. I attended online. The PAC is a standalone committee for the town of St. Andrews. The mayor and council shouldn't be really weighing in. It's set up through local government for that very reason, to have an independent group look at it. This falls within their realm of what they do. Part of me is happy about that because it's obviously a controversial issue. I see both sides of it. I will say that was a number of residents that expressed concern. PAC, out of respect for everybody, the presenter, the developer, and residents in the area, wanted to digest the information, which makes sense when you just got it. Maybe do their own research as well of what they heard. And what they'll be doing is coming back. I believe there was a lot of members that were actually away this month, might have been a factor. But I think taking 30 days to look at something that's been going on for a while makes a lot of sense. So from, I guess, my perspective is I think within this month we should be hearing, probably early March, we'll be hearing what their decision is. And it's good to see residents engaged and aware. They did an extensive polling area to determine, make sure everyone that was in the area was aware of it.
All right. Well, next time you're back, I'm sure we will have a decision and we can talk about it. Once again, thank you, Brad, so much for making the time to come in today.
Thank you.
My guest today has been Brad Henderson, Mayor of the town of St. Andrews. I'm Vicki Hogarth. Thank you for watching Your Town Matters.